Hey guys, welcome back. UFC 247. What I did last time, I went over the whole card, looked at the matchups. I kind of broke down or talked about matchups that were on the card. But this card, I think, it doesn't have as many good matchups on it. So I thought I'd just look at the main event. So with the main event, basically the question is, does Reyes have a chance? Can he beat John Jones? And to try and answer that or figure that out, I've had a look at the past few matches from both of them. And it was good actually to go back through the Reyes fights. It's a lot more exciting than what I remembered. So yeah, it's always good to go back and watch the fights. So basically, to cut to it, I think the first question people have is timing. Has Reyes picked the right? Well, not picked, but has he found the right time to beat John Jones? He hasn't looked as good in his last few performances against Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos. I actually thought he lost the Santos fight. I watched it again, still felt the same. The interesting thing was, it didn't seem like Santos beat him as much as Jones just didn't care. It must have been a fight that was hard for him to get up for. I got much the same vibe from the Anthony Smith fight. The Gustafsson fight was a better performance than what I remembered. He looked really good in that fight. But again, I think Gus, since then, lost to Anthony Smith, was coming off an over a year-long layoff. So I'll chalk that up a little bit to Gus not being exactly what he was, as much as Jones being great. So I think the mileage has definitely played a factor. He's had a lot of 5-round fights. He hasn't been stopping guys early, generally. Even the fights he's been dominant in, he's had to go the whole 25 for the most part, aside from the DC knockout, the Gustafsson knockout, and a couple of others. But yeah, overall, he's had to go through some long, hard fights and take a bit of damage, and he has taken some big hits too. I noticed even in the Santos fight, he took a big head kick, some big overhands. So yeah, he has taken a lot of mileage. So he has got a lot of mileage on him. So I think there's something to that. I think there's something to the fact that he has had the long fights, that he has worn a lot of damage, and just the wear and tear of training camps. Is it enough though for Reyes to get the win? I'm still not sure. Reyes has said this himself. It's hard to get film. It's hard to get a read on him because there isn't much out there. Most of his fights have ended pretty early. The one we have the OSP fight, which was a really good performance, but he did tire. And we know John has got a pretty hard fight in him. Even if he's not in the best of shape, he still finds a way. He's mentally tough enough to push through a hard 5 rounds. And Reyes, can slow down considerably. Although, as we saw from the knockdown against OSP in the last round, I think the last second of the last round, he carries power at least through the 3 rounds. So striking wise, I feel like the uppercuts of Reyes are going to come into this. He has a technique where I notice he throws a right hook and has the left uppercut come up the middle, and that could be good for Jones' reaching style. He hasn't done it as much of late, but if he goes back to that kind of reach and grab as he used to reach like against Rashad Evans and grab for the wrist, if he goes for that, I can see Reyes coming over the top and catching him up the middle like he did with Cannonier. Whether that can put him down, we don't know. The straight left, his pivot straight left is a very interesting technique. If Jones tries to walk him down, he could pivot off. He fights well off the back foot, and Jones loves to walk people down, and generally that works for him. But I feel like against Reyes, it might play into Reyes' game actually, to have him fight off the back foot. He is a very good back foot fighter. So as we saw that's what we saw actually in the Weidman KO, which was actually just pretty sad to watch. There's something we did get out of the Weidman fight, not that there was much to get out of it, but I've noticed against Volkan, which I actually thought he lost the Volkan fight initially. It was a bit closer when I watched it again. So just to talk about the Volkan fight for a second. He said he had I watched the media luncheon, he said he had a broken nose in that fight, changed camps, and I mean, look, it says something about his mental toughness. He's not going to wilt that if you can have your nose broken in the first round, be tired and still and push on. Then, that says a lot about his mental ability and not to be psyched out. So I think that's going to bode well for him against John Jones. But something I noticed in the Volkan and the Weidman fight was he did get taken down. Now, that is a bad thing. Obviously, that if Vulcan is able to take you down, and Weidman, basically a blown up middleweight, is able to take you down. No matter how good a wrestler Weidman is, it's just the size disparity. It's not a great look. But his ability to get back up and his athleticism really came into play. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, we don't know what strategy John Jones is going to choose, but he does like to fight them. Usually, if you look historically with John Jones, he does like to fight people in their domain. He likes to fight people at what they're best at. So he was happy to wrestle with DC. He was happy to trade strikes with Gustafsson. So yeah, he might choose to stand with him, but if he does like to go the takedown route, like in the second Gustafsson fight, it'll be interesting to see if Reyes can get back up. He's shown previously that he can, but as we've always seen, it's a big step up to John Jones. No matter what John Jones we're getting, whether it's the shop-worn one or not shop-worn, but not as good, not as athletic, not as explosive, but still, even a terrible John Jones is enough to beat a lot of these guys. So it's really hard to know what we're going to get. We definitely have seen a decline in John Jones. Just how much has he declined, and if he has he declined enough, and is Reyes good enough? Are they going to meet at that spot? Are they going to meet in that perfect spot? Ever since the kind of picogram thing happened, ever since the second DC fight where he tested positive again, we've seen a decline. It's like he knew he couldn't get away with it again. So I think potentially the steroid use has stopped, or he's not using the same or not as potent steroids. I don't know. I'm not an endocrinologist. I don't really know how these things work, but there definitely has been a change in his performance, in his pacing, in his risk taking, because risk taking takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of cardio, a lot of strength, and maybe without steroids, or at least with minimal steroids, or not the same yet. Minimal steroids maybe. He is just not. He's not willing to put himself out there as much, Jones, because he knows he doesn't have that in the tank anymore. I don't know, or maybe he just can't get up for these people. I mean, it was against two middleweights his last two fights, and that has been his most lackluster performances. Probably should have been his best ones, considering who he was up against. So maybe fighting a true light heavyweight in Reyes. I mean, and that's going to be good too, seeing someone. We've always seen John Jones struggle with people of his height, reach, and of his size, and Reyes, is all those things. And it's good to see him against a true light heavyweight again. Although I would love to see another Santos rematch, although, it's how that would go down. But the first fight, I feel like they have to run that one back. Going back to that, I just think, the scrutiny on him maybe has made him step back from the steroid use. I think it's no coincidence after he got pinged a couple of times by USADA that his performances have declined. The other time he got pinged was against for OSP, and that was one of the worst performances we've seen. So every time he has had a great performance, basically there has been some controversy around it. So I don't think it's crazy to think. I mean, it depends. Depends what he's willing to do this time. But I think there definitely is a correlation between USADA scrutiny on him and his lackluster performances. Looking at my notes here, there's some good uppercuts from Reyes, some good striking, fights well off the back foot. We see that he can push through adversity, like I said prior. Basically, I know my prediction on this one. It's hard not to go with John Jones. Just if you look historically, he's hard to bet against, and he seems to fight to his level of competition. Because again, we saw the OSP fight, but then we see DC2 where he was able to finish him, which who would have thought he could do that? I know I didn't think he could do that. So he does fight to his level of competition or perceived threat, and his level of disdain for the opponent. And I think he sees Reyes as a threat. I think he has got a bit of disdain for him. So I think we probably will see a cerebral, technical John Jones, because that has defined this era of his career. That he has become more cerebral. He's not as risk taking. There's too much for him to lose. And again, I don't think the steroid use is as apparent. So he has to fight smarter, has to fight differently, has to fight technical. He's always fought technical, but he can't take as many risks. So if we get high IQ John Jones, fight IQ John Jones, then I think it might just be too much for the inexperience of Reyes. I think he's only 12-0. There should probably be a loss in there, but yeah, definitely the inexperience might show. His athleticism enough, his hard punching enough? Historically, probably not. But he does have that Weidman-like confidence. I don't know if you guys have seen this. There's definitely a vibe from Reyes that he does seem very confident, and he does seem like quietly confident, much like I'm getting a Weidman Silva vibe. But it's just the power's there, but a lot of Jones's opponents have had power. Fighting off the back foot is an interesting thing that hasn't really been. I don't think Jones has fought many great back foot fighters. I know Gustafsson fights off the back foot, but I wouldn't say he was a great back foot fighter. So that'll be interesting, the combination of the two. The wrestling, I think if Jones wants to take it there, he'll probably get him down. Can he keep him down? That's yet to be seen, but I would venture to say he could. If those guys he's fought like Falcon and Weidman were able to get him down, I know he got back up, but they weren't as big, as imposing and skillful as Jones. So I'll say if Jones decides to wrestle, it could be short. I assume he'll try and strike for the most part. Yeah, I'm thinking Jones. I'm going to go Jones by decision on this one. With maybe some good moments, some hard shots landed by Reyes, but yeah, I'll fall back on Jones by decision. Alright guys, I'll be back for the next big pay-per-view, and we'll talk then.